Breaking news here on HQ. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett has just become the highest paid non-QB in NFL history. That is according to our NFL insider Jonathan Jones. It's an extension to stay in Cleveland worth more than $40 million a year. 123.5 of that is guaranteed.
So it turns out that the NFL was completely wrong about the entire Myles Garrett Cleveland Browns situation, and in a complete turn of events, Myles Garrett just received the biggest non-QB contract in NFL history. And as a Browns fan, I'm very happy, but at the same time, I could care less, because the Browns have just let me down and everyone in Cleveland down over and over again, and I already know how this is going to end. That is a lot of money to give someone, and right now, the Browns' two highest contracts in Watson and now Garrett are being given to players that don't score points. But for Garrett, he literally finessed everyone. He acted like he wanted to win and it was all he cared about and was 100% set on leaving, and because of that, the Browns basically handed him a blank check, and nobody in their right mind is passing up $40 million a year in the NFL. This was like the guy in the corporate world that threatens to leave and then the current company offers more money to make him stay. Except Myles just did it in football with millions of dollars. I know the cap is kind of like a myth in the NFL. There are so many ways around it, but the Browns have a ton of money right now tied up in a QB that won't play another snap for the team and now a defensive lineman. So the Browns are going to have to do a lot of finessing in free agency, and they are going to have to hit on a QB either through free agency or in the draft, and they will have to get some steals in terms of position players in the later rounds of the draft as well. I know there is a lot of talk about what to do with Nick Chubb. Obviously all of Cleveland wants him back because he is the one that built the culture and he is the main guy that everyone likes, and honestly, if I'm the front office and I'm the Haslams, I would bring him back because Haslam has created such a losing organization and it's obvious they are never going to turn things around. The dude is the worst owner and has created the worst culture in the sport, so knowing how the Haslams work, they will bring Chubb back just to sell more season tickets and get butts in seats, even though the team will probably go 5-12. Sorry, I just had to get that frustration out of me. I'm no longer going to fall for any of this bait as a diehard Browns fan, but still, as of today, extending Garrett was a nice little surprise, and I'm not going to lie and say I completely expected this to happen, but after Max Crosby over the weekend signed the largest non-QB extension, you knew Myles was not going to go down without resetting the record. And luckily for us Browns fans, it was to stay in Cleveland. And the real reason why Myles chose to stay is because now he can sit courtside and watch the unbelievable basketball the Cavs are playing right now. I mean, it would just be such a shame to switch teams and miss out on this upcoming playoff run. Nah, I'm just kidding, and shout out to Reflog for posting about that. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, this was definitely a power move from both sides, and now the Browns are in a very interesting spot all of a sudden with the upcoming draft. If you've been following the news and the talk at all, you know there is a ton of Shedeur Sanders stuff out right now, and maybe he was the guy that made Myles decide to come back. Or maybe the Browns actually do have a plan in place, and they are going to sign a free agent, and then they can actually draft Abdul Carter to create the new best defensive line in the NFL. Because having a good D-line is super important. I think the Eagles reproved that by winning the Super Bowl mainly from how good their defensive line play was with the young and upcoming superstar in Jalen Carter. Obviously, if I were to bet money on what's going to happen, I think Sanders getting drafted is the most likely scenario, but if the Titans really are deadlocked on Hunter or even Carter, then obviously a QB is the next best option, and I mean, if Cam Ward is available at 2, that creates a completely new conversation. Maybe this is a crazy take, but I actually like the upside of Sanders a lot more than Cam Ward. I think Ward has a better floor and probably would not end up being a complete disaster like a Sanders experiment could, but I actually watched a ton of Shedeur in college, and he is capable of making any throw from anywhere on the field. He has all the tools to be an NFL guy. And what would be best is if the Browns could sign a vet QB, maybe get Sam Darnold somehow, and then sit Sanders for a bit. That would be ideal, but it's not something that I think the Browns are competent enough to do. Anyways, before I continue on, if you are enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe, because your support, as always, truly means the world. Alright, now thinking draft, I already covered what I'm thinking about pick number 2, but like I said, with Garrett now answering a ton of questions, the 3rd, 5th, and 6th round picks are going to be super important. And I've said it a lot over the last few months, but I would be perfectly fine with taking a Hunter or a Carter at 2, and signing a vet and drafting a Dart or a Will Howard in rounds 4 or 5. I think with the way this year's draft is constructed, you can find a high ceiling quarterback in the later rounds. Obviously, I'm biased with the Will Howard thing because of the Buckeyes, but I just loved what I saw from him once Chip Kelly finally opened up the offense in the playoffs. He looked like an NFL QB, and if the Browns signed a vet and drafted him to sit and learn for a year, that could work. And the pressure would be off, like a Sanders pick. And the past Browns QBs the team has drafted have proved it's tough to live up to the pressure of saving a haunted franchise. And then of course the Browns need to draft a running back. That is a must. I'm fine with bringing Chubb back for the right price. I think he will be a little better after a full offseason to get some of his strength back in those legs, but I would for sure draft Travion Henderson or a Judkins or somebody of that caliber in the 3rd round. But then of course they would need to draft an offensive lineman as well, because even though the current line is great on paper, they have the personnel. We saw what happened last year. The guys are starting to age, they're going to get hurt, and it's important to always have up and coming reinforcements. Anyways, going back to Myles Garrett, it truly is a relief to have him back, because even though the Browns have sucked and do not win, he is the superstar I have had throughout my childhood. He's the guy that is going to retire and be a Hall of Famer with the Browns, and losing your superstar just sucks to see happen no matter the circumstances. And I mean, we could potentially see his best season ever if the Browns do draft Carter. All he has needed his whole career is another beast on the other end of the line so he can't get doubled and tripled. Yeah, they have had guys like Smith. The front office has made an effort to get him that second guy. I'll give them that. But there truly has not been a disruptor on the other side of the line to work with Myles, which has led to him having worse numbers than he could have. But even while getting doubled and tripled, Myles has pretty much averaged a sack a game over the last 4 years. But even while getting doubled and tripled, Myles has pretty much averaged a sack a game over the last 4 years, which is insane. But I am still worried about the future of the Browns defense because JOK's future is up in the air. He may never play a snap of football again, and he was really the Browns' security blanket at linebacker. We were banking on him to be the future guy, and now all of a sudden, he potentially won't be there anymore. And if the Browns have all these urgent needs to fill in the draft, that leaves a big question mark because you're not going to get a starter for that position in the 6th round, at least not a quality one, and that is one thing I'm worried about. But obviously, getting Myles secured for the future helps ease a little bit of that uncertainty. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this move. Are you happy about it? Do you think the Browns gave Myles too much money, or do you think this was a bad move altogether? And also let me know what you think the Browns should do in the upcoming draft. That's really all I have to say for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed, and if you haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know what you'd like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.